There's a moment every entrepreneur hits. You're working harder than you ever have. The calendar is packed, but the inbox feels endless. That to-do list never gets shorter, and somehow the business still isn't growing the way that it should be. But the problem isn't effort. The problem is leverage. Welcome to the Leverage Podcast. I'm your host, John Davidson, and every week I'm sitting down with founders and top performers who have found that lever. The hire, the system, that mindset shift that changed everything. This show is for the business owner who's ready to stop being the bottleneck and start being the architect. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to another episode of the Leverage Podcast. I'm your host, John Davidson, and I am pleased to be joined by an incredible real estate agent, Robbie Baker, one of the top agents in the Tennessee area, the hardest working agent in Knoxville, as rumor has it. Robbie, thank you for joining me on the show today.
And honored to be here, John. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this podcast is all about, sharing insights that have made you successful, that leverage that has really helped you get to the next step. But first, I love understanding what makes Knoxville and the surrounding area a great place to buy a home.
Well, I believe Knoxville is still undervalued as far as Tennessee goes. We've experienced a lot of migration in the state of Tennessee over the last 10 years. But since I've been in the real estate business, Nashville has gotten much bigger and much more crowded and much more unaffordable. And Knoxville is working its way there. So I think Knoxville still has some opportunity for growth, and we do not have enough housing supply for the amount of people coming.
Oh, wow. So get there while you can. For those who are not as familiar with the area, I know there's a lot of lakes, rivers, mountains, but what are some of the amenities there that make it a great place to live?
Well, first and foremost, you can't mention Knoxville, Tennessee without talking about the University of Tennessee and the home of the Tennessee Volunteers. This is a college football town through and through. We have some other sports, but we live and die by college football. So Neyland Stadium is the epicenter of downtown Knoxville. With a short drive, about 45 minutes from the city center, you can get to the Great Smoky Mountains, which is a pretty large tourist attraction. It's a pretty large market for Airbnb, overnight rentals, cabin rentals. And it's for a lot of people, it's a vacation to the mountains, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevierville area. And then surrounding Knoxville is beautiful. I mean, Tennessee countryside, you've got lakes, rivers, lots of fishing, lots of outdoor recreation. But with a small, I wouldn't say small town, but with a smaller city feel. So you still get the ability to enjoy a downtown city life without being overrun with it.
Yeah, really an outdoorsy person's dream, right? And
that's right.
I've always been attracted to the smaller city next to the big city. I've lived all over the country, but now I live outside of Dallas, and I live in McKinney, which is a large suburb. So and I've always loved that vibe. It's enough, it's big enough, but you're not dealing with maybe the issues, the traffic challenges or the noise that might come with the larger city. Well, I want to take you through your career, Robbie. I think it's really interesting that you got into real estate fairly recently, right? Around 2021. And so, you had this career in corporate sales, and then 2021, you made a decision to make a career change. What prompted you to make that decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. I spent the better part of 8 years working for a company here locally in wireless retail sales, and started off as a salesperson and then started training salespeople, and just got a passion for training and development. I built a training department pretty much from the ground up, and that process for the company was then duplicated across the country. And so I knew that I had the ability to build something from scratch. What hit me, I think, in 2021, as I was dealing with a lot of conflict at work and just really unfulfilled in the work that I was doing, the opportunity closed, and I had to choose a different direction. And I'll tell you, that was a moment for me where I said, you know what, I know that I can build it. I'm not exactly sure what vehicle I can build it in, but I'm not going to build it for someone else again. And so I did a lot of exploring from that avenue and My dad had been pretty successful in real estate investing and construction. And so I had a pretty good track record there that I could lean on. My sister is actually a top agent over in the Franklin area, just south of Nashville. And she made a transition from sales to real estate and was doing really well. And so I leaned on those two areas. Being raised in an entrepreneurial household, it was time for me to bet on myself. And so, by 3 months after I left that corporate job, I took a leap of faith, and here we are.
That's fantastic. I hear a lot from people on this podcast about, stopping climbing someone else's ladder and then building your own. That's really cool to hear that your sister was already into it, that you come from an entrepreneurial household. What was some of the earliest feedback your sister shared with you when you told her, hey, I think I'm going to go down this career path as well?
Well, of course, she was excited. She was excited. Her business is very different than mine. At the time, she was in a partnership with another agent and working out of a brokerage there in Nashville. And the brokerage that I initially plugged into here in Knoxville just wasn't really aligned with what I was trying to build. So it was great to get me started, but I had to find my people in the business really to kind of move me forward. I give a lot of credit to my sister for inspiring the decision to start, but to get things going, I really had to find people that were building it the way I wanted to build it.
Yeah, and so I hear that, you took your experience of building systems, perhaps teams in corporate America, and then you're saying, okay, well, this can translate to my real estate career as well. But what about building a brand from scratch? You're entering this community, there's probably a ton of other agents in the area, right? How do you step in and say, look, I'm the person to help you find a home in this area, fresh into a new industry?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I'll answer it like this. I believe we're all building a brand. Some of us are building it actively and some of us are building it passively. We don't recognize the brand that we're actually building. The challenge is not building a brand. The challenge is rebranding from something you've already built. And so to rebrand myself as a real estate professional, as opposed to a corporate sales trainer, for example, that became like the number one driver for the first year I was in business, was just letting people that knew me, that liked me, know that I was in business for myself now, and this is what I was doing.
Yeah, so I love that phrase of you're always building a brand and it's more a rebrand than a new brand. What was the brand that you felt like you had created before you stepped into real estate? And then if you were to, I guess, rebrand that, how was that adjusted to step in there successfully?
I think that the way the skills and the abilities that I had developed in my corporate training role were very much process development. I could develop a process and then I could perform that process and then I could duplicate it and teach other people. And I look at it like, a mentorship or a discipleship, even like once you're learned and equipped with specific skills, you almost have a responsibility to share them. Well, I knew that there was a whole lot higher ROI if I developed that process in the real estate space than as opposed to going into a different type of business. For me, the choice to go to real estate was because I already had a servant's heart. I already wanted to do the best for the benefit of others. And I knew that if I learned the process and if I developed the skills, it was just like anything else. It was only a matter of time before I became successful doing it. And then I could be in a position to help other people, which is where I am now.
Yeah. Well, I know that the pillars of your business are being authentic, being trustworthy, and extreme ownership. I think a lot of the audience, we all know what authenticity and trustworthiness is, but what does extreme ownership mean to you?
Well, that's a great question. There's a book by Jocko Willink called Extreme Ownership that I read a few years ago, actually prior to getting into business. It's a leadership development book, but more than anything, the message of it is everything falls on my shoulders. No matter what good or bad happens, I'm not ever going to be in a position to point fingers or place blame elsewhere. If it's something happened inside of my sphere of influence, inside of my ability to control or impact and influence, and it impacted people negatively, we take ownership, we move forward. And I think for me, that is just an outright refusal to be a victim of my circumstances. And so when I'm servicing clients or I'm helping clients either buy or sell homes, or I'm helping them with their investments, and things go wrong, on almost every transaction, you have hiccups. We figure out how to solve problems, and we take responsibility for what is ours. It gives people a lot more peace of mind knowing that they've got someone truly advocating for them and not just for themselves.
Yeah, and there's kind of two situations with that. There's one where you are sharing that promise,
Mhm.
right? Because sometimes everything goes to according to plan.
Mhm.
Sometimes. But
Right.
then there's other times where you have to put this promise into action and show that you actually are accountable, right? Take me through an experience where you had to live extreme ownership versus, simply talking about it.
Oh yeah, it's great. Had a listing honestly about 2 years ago. It was the first time ever actually had to cancel a listing and give it back to a seller. I'd worked on the listing for about 6 months, and I hadn't done the research I needed to do in the market to see how fast the properties were moving. And I have a process when it comes to listing property. I do not make the decision on what that property is going to be listed for. If that seller wants to overprice their property, that is their prerogative. I'll do everything in my power to get it sold. But I made recommendations throughout the process that weren't necessarily received well. And I came back to the seller and I said, "Hey, look, I don't know that I've set you up for success here, because I really probably should have done more research on what was going on in the marketplace and not been so agreeable to price this property where it is." And I gave it back to him, and he sold it with someone else for about $20,000 less, and it took him almost another year.
Wow.
And so to me, that the best thing that I could do was, instead of trying to prove that I was right now, because I'd already broken trust, was to give somebody else the opportunity. And so I actually removed the listing agreement. I didn't ask to be fired.
And some things that happen with accountability is you really take ownership. I mean, we were talking about extreme ownership, but when you know you're going to hold yourself to that standard, share a little bit about, what you do throughout a process to avoid having to be held accountable to something that doesn't go right, right? You're probably taking steps
Yeah.
to avoid things rather than
Well,
otherwise.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that you've got to be sold out to help people do what they want to do. And I think that more than selling real estate, selling houses, I don't believe our job is to sell houses or to help people buy houses. I believe it's to help people solve a problem in their life. And if we are doing our jobs correctly, we're asking questions, we're going deep to understand what that true problem is, and then working to solve that problem. And sometimes that requires us to sell a piece of property or acquire a piece of property. And sometimes that just requires us to make a recommendation to a contractor and literally let that opportunity pass. And I think that the agent is so focused on getting the deal under contract or getting the listing agreement signed, they miss the person on the other side of it. And I think for me, in that position with that example that I shared, I was more focused on getting a listing than I was on helping a person solve a problem, and it bit me.
Yeah, when I interview top agents on this podcast, a piece of feedback I consistently hear is that if you focus on the person and the problem and spend that one-on-one time, have those early solution-oriented conversations, the commissions come,
That's
right?
right.
And the problems in this industry are when people are just looking for the commission, just looking for the paycheck. I remember I used to sell cell phones in the mall back in the day. I was that guy in the mall you're trying to avoid eye contact with, It was like, hey, you need a new phone? And I worked for T-Mobile. And I remember, Verizon always had the better service, but it was more expensive. T-Mobile had the shorter plan and the more affordable plan. And I remember there was one time, this woman came in and she said, "Oh yeah, I want to buy a phone, and I've got I got to make a certain amount of sales a week and all of this, right?" So I'm like, "Oh, good, got another sale." I looked at her area, no service,
Mm.
right? And so, not because of me, but because of the great leaders that I had in the sales organization, they said, "John, check the service. Do not sell the phone to somebody who doesn't have service, because guess what's going to happen? You're going to get that return. You're going to get an angry person, and that short-term gratification is going to result in long-term headaches, right?"
Right.
So the process that we were taught to employ, if this situation did happen, was, "Hey, I would love to sell you this phone, but I am looking at the coverage map, and unfortunately, you just don't live in a great area for this service. To be honest with you, I would send you over to Verizon. It's going to be more expensive, and it's going to be a 2-year rather than a 1-year, contract. But I just think you're going to be better served. But if you could do me one favor, if anybody who needs a phone, if you would send them to me, and we can look at their service, and I would be happy to help them if it works in their area." You know how many referrals I got from that one conversation versus that
Yeah.
short term? A lot. And so I share that long example. Thank you for listening. To also share the message of every successful person I talk to on here talks about, if you focus on the solution, the rest of it works out.
That's right.
Right. Well, I want to take you to day one of your real estate career. You've had a lot of success in a relatively short period of time, but if you were to give yourself advice on day one of stepping into real estate, knowing all that you know now, what advice would you give?
Talk to as many people as you possibly can. And don't avoid the people that already know you because you're nervous about a different product or service. Like just talk to people. This is a relationship business more than it is anything else, and it requires a massive amount of conversations in order to do business. And I think that one of the biggest things that maybe set me back early on was I had expectations of how conversations were going to go before I had the conversations. And then I had expectations for outcomes. I had expectations for outcomes based on the relationship I had with people. And every single real estate agent on the planet has experienced this, where a good friend or family member even hires a different agent, knowing that they're a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And early on, if I could go back to day one, Robbie, I would say, hey man, let that slide as fast as possible, because they probably knew 4 or 5 agents before you ever got your license. And they probably have a whole lot more relational equity in that person's ability to sell real estate than they do with you. And
Right.
we don't be upset that they're doing what they feel is best for them. The faster you're able to bounce back from that disappointment, the faster you're able to realize that you got your time back to go help the people that actually love you, that want to work with you, that will refer you. And man, I'd love to go back to day one and say, why are you getting so upset every time one of your buddies buys a house with somebody else? Because I would be a lot further along, a lot faster if I wouldn't have sulked for months,
That is great advice. Yeah, I mean, number one, expectations are everything in life and in business, right?
Mm,
But then secondly, it's a great point. It's like, yeah, you're my really good friend, but this is a really important life change,
mm,
and you just started this, and I may love you as a friend, but I really want someone who knows what I don't know and is experienced and has done this for years to help me, because I don't want to risk our friendship over this. That might be the
mm.
feeling that some people have, right?
Yeah, the reality is your first 4 or 5 clients are going to come from complete strangers. They're not going to come from people that you know. And that you're probably going to get referred to those strangers by somebody that you know. But look a layer deep. The relationships, have conversations with as many people as possible. The relationships you have will point you to your first clients, and you probably will not know them.
And that's a really good point to maybe look at the friendship uh relationship there as the referral catalyst rather
Mm,
than the direct
without a doubt.
their direct client right away. Well, I want to learn more. I know you developed a number of systems
Mm.
in corporate life, and I want to get into some of those systems that you've developed in real estate that have helped you be successful. But first, let's listen to a message from our sponsor, Sphere Rocket.
Business owners and entrepreneurs will place a proven executive assistant VA for just $4 to $8 an hour, and if they don't perform, you don't pay. Imagine freeing up 20 plus hours a week by someone handling your most time consuming tasks like admin work, managing emails, scheduling meetings, and so much more. This one hire could transform your productivity and give you back the time you need to focus on growing your business. At Sphere Rocket VA, we make this possible in as little as 7 days. We'll place a proven executive assistant VA in your business for just $4 to $8 an hour, and your VA will take over day-to-day administrative tasks, help manage your email and calendar, follow up with past clients, giving you back 20 plus hours a week so you can increase your sales and even enjoy more personal time. And here's the best part. If they don't give you back 20 plus hours a week in the first month, you don't pay Sphere Rocket a dime. We've done this for thousands of business owners, and now it's your turn to see the results. Click the link around this video to schedule a demo and discover how this one hire can completely change how you run your business. Remember, if within 45 days the VA doesn't perform, you don't pay.
All right, I'm here with Robbie Baker, the hardest working agent in Knoxville. But we know that hard work doesn't always accomplish everything. A lot of times it's the systems that we build, the processes we develop, and enacting those processes. So, Robbie, I know, like you said earlier, in corporate America, one of the things that a skill that has translated is building processes and then applying those. What are some of the processes that you have applied to your real estate business that have proven successful?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. When you come down to what actually is income producing in real estate, I believe it's five things: lead generation, lead follow up or nurturing, going on appointments, negotiating deals, and going to closings. Outside of those five things, they are filler. They are not income producing. And I think if the real estate agent recognizes that they need to maximize their time doing those five things and hire out and build leverage in the areas where they aren't doing income producing activities, the faster they're able to do that, the faster they're able to scale.
Yeah, that's a great point for any entrepreneur or solopreneur, right? Is identifying where is your time most valuable.
Mhm.
An example I share a lot of times that a coach shared with me years ago is if you take the amount of money that you want to make and you figure out your hourly rate, which is basically dividing an annual salary by 2,000. So round numbers, if you want to make $100,000, that's $50 an hour, basically. I was always so kind of nervous and intimidated about adding costs to my business years ago when I had my own consultancy. But what I was realizing, I was really just holding myself back by trying to do too much myself. And so what my coach helped me understand, she said, John, would you pay $50 an hour for somebody to do this task? To manage your inbox, to manage your calendar, to shoot, or to, manage your social media, to send out lead generation messages, etc. Well, if you're doing those things yourself, John, you're spending $50 an hour on
That's
that.
what you're paying for it. Yep.
Right. And so even more so if you're making more, right? And so I love that point of focusing on the revenue producing actions and
Yeah.
what do you do especially well, right? Like if you're great in the room having the conversation with the real estate agent, should you putting the sign in the yard or should you be touring a home and having that conversation? On the flip side, Robbie, maybe you can name for us what are some non-revenue producing actions that are common in the real estate workflow that you recommend people delegate?
Yeah. Document management. Like I think that the first hire in your real estate business has got to be an administrative person to help you with document management, dates and timelines, communicating via email to title companies and lenders, keeping buyers or sellers on track with the dates and deadlines within their transaction. I brought on a transaction coordinator in year 2 of my business. I hit a home run on the very first swing. I'm lucky. I'm grateful. I now have 2 of them. And from an administrative standpoint, I don't worry about that. I'm more in putting the ball in the end zone, and they're figuring out how to keep it organized for me. I don't know how I would operate without them now, but that would be number 1, admin tasks. I think that we're so quick as entrepreneurs to look for the things that we don't enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And we want to get rid of the things that we don't enjoy doing. You don't like making phone calls, so you want to hire someone else to make the phone calls for you. But what you don't realize is the relationship creation in the business is like the top of the funnel activity. And, so to me, you can have someone make phone calls and warm them up, but at some point you're going to have to pick the phone up and talk to that prospect. So I think that, we sometimes we look for the thing that we want to eliminate from our plate because we don't enjoy doing it, and we only want to do the things that are fun. I think that the agent should work on the 5 IPAs is what I call them, the income producing activities, and delegate everything else. And if that means social media management, if that means content creation, editing, email responses, you name it.
That's really, really great advice. We work with something called a leader or replacement ladder. Understanding exactly what are the things that you should replace in your business, and the very first thing is administrative tasks. But I love that focus on don't necessarily delegate what you don't enjoy doing, because it might be something that you do uniquely need to be doing as the owner of this business. I'm going to give you a little bit of rapid fire here at the end as we end this episode. I really appreciate you sharing all your insights today. I'm learning a lot. I know the audience is as well. First question for you. What's the best advice you've ever received in real estate, and who gave it to you?
Business is unlimited. Competition does not exist. And that's from my coach and mentor, Ricky Carruth. The mindset that you're in competition with only one person, and that is yourself.
That is very well said. What is the fastest way to fail in real estate?
Don't take action. Sit there and shuffle papers on your desk to figure out which opportunity is the best one. Or, here's another way. Do 15 different lead gen activities and never focus.
Go a little deeper on that for me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that drove me nuts when I first started. Was we were given this entire suite of different things we could do: cold calling, door knocking, direct mail, online, Google pay-per-click, social media content, Facebook ads, you name it. The list goes on and on and on and on. Pay it, close referral company, Zillow leads, realtor.com. You got 50 different lines in the fire, and you've specialized in nothing.
Yeah.
And so if you will go deep on the thing where you are actually getting success, and for me, I didn't expect this. It was social media, because I was a sales guy. I could pick up the phone and make calls. I didn't enjoy prospecting for real estate on the phone. And I started making social media content and created a lot of conversations fast. And I was like, wow, I'm just going to get really good at this. And that's all I really focused on the first 2 years in the business.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Just the focus of becoming a master of one thing. And then if demand and necessity, then you kind of branch out into a second tangential thing that's complementary. But I think a lot of people try to do too much, and we don't master anything. That's great advice. Next question for you. What is the most underrated skill in real estate that nobody talks about enough?
The ability to ask good questions. I feel like people are so busy trying to sell themselves that they don't really want to understand what that other person has going on. If we will ask great questions and shut our mouth, we can learn so much about how we can help people. And go deep, ask great questions.
Well said. What are some examples of questions that help you really get to the root of the problem that your client is trying to solve?
Yeah, they're usually why questions. Why is it that you want to be able to do that? Why is it you're making this decision now? Why now and not later? Or why later and not now? Normally, they are truly trying to uncover what's the real motivation here, because 9 times out of 10, it's not selling the property. Usually it's, I need to be in this location by this timeline, dream scenario, because this job opportunity or school starts or whatever it may be. And when you get to the root of the what's the core motivation, then it's really easy to say, okay, in order for us to be able to do that, here's what we need to do, and we need to get started now.
Yeah, it's a really good point that a lot of times the original reason for buying or selling isn't the root cause. And, once you discover that, you can really find the best solution for
Sure.
that client. Just a couple more questions here for you. So you're, great at building processes and enacting those. What is, whether a technology, an app, a system that your business could not live without?
Wow. I don't think that I could live without the ability to create videos. I think videos has given me the opportunity to talk to a lot of people at once instead of a few people over a lot of time. I saw early on that, I could make 100 calls an hour. I might get 5 good conversations out of that. And so I really only reached 5 people. But in that same hour, I could create an extremely mediocre video and 250 to 500 people will see it. And 4 or 5 people might actually have enough interest to engage with it. So I just saw that the return on creating a video asset, basically cloning myself, gave me the ability to create brand exposure quickly.
Right. And then that advertising is free-ish.
Mm-hmm.
You're generating inbound leads as well, or at least warmer than just that cold call on the phone,
For sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, very last question for you, Robbie. I so appreciate you being here and sharing all this with us, but where can we watch these videos that you're referencing? And for those who are looking to buy or sell a home in the Knoxville area, how can we get a hold of you?
Well, Instagram is probably the easiest way to find me. It's Robbie Baker Realtor on Instagram. I have a link in my profile. You can book a call directly with me there. My contact information is there as well. So that would be where I would start. But Instagram and TikTok, I'm Robbie Baker on TikTok. That's where I got started.
Love that.
Robbie _ Baker on TikTok and Robbie Baker Realtor on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, Robbie, I so appreciate your time today. Your career is certainly inspiring and you have learned a lot, and I appreciate you sharing that with me and our audience today. Thank you for joining me on the Leverage Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.